Welcome back to the Commanders Declassified podcast, your home for like 12 new free agents and all other things Washington Commanders. We're going old school tonight. The OGs of the Commanders Declassified podcast. Eric, what's happening, man?
Yeah, we're like the original six in the NHL, just you and me, dinosaurs sitting here doing our thing. I'm excited though, man. Free agency time. It's been a productive couple of days for sure. Looking
Man,
forward to chatting about it a little bit.
yes. Every time you open Twitter, there's new news for us, which I think is fun and phenomenal. It kind of reminds me of the old Snyder days, but we're making smarter moves and smarter decisions. So we get the best of both worlds. I love it. And unfortunately, we did not sign Lake C. Strunk, but we're going to move on from that. Let's jump right into these free agents. Eric, what I want to know from you is, A, what do you think about the signing? And two, what do you think of the impact that they'll make on the roster this year? Is you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to start out with Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is well into his 30s. He is a tight end. Let's see, last year he was rated 50 overall by PFF. He had 27 receptions, 187 yards, 1 touchdown. Give me your thoughts on Zach Ertz.
He crushed my Noah Fant dreams, so I'm not a fan. It's hard to say what he's going to bring to the team this year. I think he's a Kingsbury guy, so they wanted to bring somebody in who was versed in the offense that can work with the team and translate maybe for a player. I don't have high expectations at all for Zach Ertz this year, but anything he gives us is gravy.
Do you think he starts for us early on, or do you think it's going to be one of the guys already on the roster, or we're going to get somebody in the draft?
I don't know. I mean, as of today, he's probably the starter because they just, you don't know what you have in Cole Turner or Curtis Hodges, if those guys are even going to be around with the new staff, the draft. I do think they draft a tight end because I don't know that, somebody is like a Jatavius Sanders, somebody like that or my guy, Cade Stover in the draft. I think one of those guys, somebody like that's going to come in. I don't think they roll with just this crew at the tight end position, but could be wrong. But yeah, as it stands right now, I think he looks like he's day one starter just because of his experience in the offense, overall experience in the NFL, and the fact the other guys on the roster haven't really done much.
Yeah, the only competition I can see based on who's on the roster is Armani Rogers, maybe if he's healthy. But I think at this point, I still like Zach Ertz to start week 1, and then we'll see how it goes from there. I like the signing in general. I don't think he's going to be like a 500-yard guy. I'd be surprised if he's over 250, but I think he gives some leadership and, like you said, familiarity with the offense. All right, Dorrance Armstrong, who you on this very podcast had suggested that we sign in free agency. He was a 70 overall on PFF. Now he was a 58.2 on run defense and a 70.1 in pass rush. What do you think about Dorrance?
I mean, I guess I could take credit for it, but like I think half of the country had kind of called that. It just made too much sense to not do it with how well he played under Dan Quinn, and then the fact that he's a free agent at the same time Quinn moves to a new team. It just made perfect sense for Dorrance Armstrong to be here, and him along with some of the other guys that they brought in that we'll get to. I think you've got the makings of a really nice defensive end rotation. But I think, as of right now, he's probably your starting right defensive end or left defense. Who knows where he's going to start? But yeah, they've done some nice work there. Dorrance Armstrong just made perfect sense.
Yeah, the guys in Dallas from that amazing defense, Joe Witt and Dan Quinn, like this guy. Sign me up. They know everything there is to know about him. Who am I to question that? I'm going with their knowledge and familiarity with him. I'm taking him all day, and I think he does start. I think he's impactful. How many sacks this year? I'm going to give you 8.5 from Dorrance Armstrong, but we'll see.
Ooh, okay, I'll take it.
Let's go. We're going to keep it moving. We got Tyler. I have no idea how to say his last name.
Biadzits, I think so. Yeah.
There you go.
Let's roll with that.
Let's roll with it, man. He was a 68.6 overall last year, 63.4 in pass block, 68.1 in run blocking. He played 1,028 snaps. He committed 3 penalties and allowed 3 sacks last year. Is this our new starting center?
Yeah, I mean, the 1,028 snaps is the one that jumps out at me there. If we can get consistency at that position, he was a Pro Bowler 2 years ago. So there's that familiarity with the coaching staff a little bit. I mean, the defensive side of the ball, at least. they thought enough to bring him in. He, thinks enough of Dan Quinn to be here. If we can just get consistency at the center position, I think he's easily the starter because he's better than anything that we had on the roster last year. And, maybe our guy from Arkansas, can't think of his name. The other center beats him out. But I think he's easily the starter, the day one starter. They brought him in to start. He came here to start, and I think it's going to work out.
We're talking about Ricky Stromberg.
Stromberg, thank you.
Yeah, I like the move. It's a center, so it's not like exciting, but we were weak there, and we've been weak there for several years, I think, since we let whatchamacallit go. So I like the pick. I like the move. Not the pick, but the signing. And he'll solidify things for us. He'll be good for a rookie quarterback. Lots of experience to bring in. And I think we're gonna do well with that one. All right, everybody's favorite free agent, Frankie Luvu, also could be Love You, depending on how he wants to pronounce it. But I'm not hating. He had 84 tackles last year, solo, 38 assists, 0 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, 80 overall PFF, 74 in run defense, 90.1 in pass rush, 67.7 in coverage. Man, he is something of an enigma to Commanders fans, but he put up numbers last year, 12 and a half sacks, I think it was, right?
Over the 3 years, he had 12 sacks.
Over the 3 years, he had 7 last year. That's what it is. Okay. How do you feel about this particular signing, man? Because
this is the one everybody's losing their mind over, right? Yeah. I said in the text chat, like, this is apparently the best guy we've never heard of, because like, I'm pretty well versed in the NFL. Like, I follow him, at least casually. I know who most guys are, but this dude just has completely escaped me. But he's a monster, and I think they brought him in to maybe fill that, to a lesser extent, that Micah Parsons role, because he's a guy that moves all over the defense like they do with Parsons, and he gets it done wherever he lines up. Again, I'm not comparing him to Parsons, but I think that's the role they envision for him. And it seems like a really good complement to what Jamin Davis is going to bring as well. He's kind of he's the north-south linebacker, whereas Davis would be the east-west linebacker. Both can get after the quarterback. So I think it's a good signing. I'm excited to watch him play. And I haven't had a chance, just because this week's been crazy with all the new free agents we're bringing in, and just like my regular life, to really sit down and watch some of his highlights. But the few that I've seen are pretty impressive. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of him.
Yeah, he definitely brings that physicality that Dan Quinn said he wanted and Adam Peters said they're looking for. What I'm not sure of is where he's going to play. Like, is he going to be the Mike? Will Jamin be the Mike? We'll see. I think,
almost guarantee he's the Mike. Yeah, that's what he played in Carolina. I think he'll transition right to that. I think so. But again, I think they're going to move him around too. He'll come off the edge, because he did, like, they'll use him like they like to use Micah Parsons, in my opinion. My expert opinion. Because since I had never even heard of him before Tuesday, I clearly know what they're going to do with him.
So, and he wore the green dot last year for the Panthers defense too. So, all around, I like that signing. Austin Ekeler is up next, the running back. Look, all offseason and even last year, I was preaching, we need a dynamic running back. We need explosiveness. I like the Ekeler signing, Eric. He was a 60.2 PFF overall, obviously one of his down seasons. He had 179 carries, 632 yards, 3.5 yards a carry, which is just like the rest of our backs last year, 5 rushing touchdowns. But where he hurt you was in the passing game. He had 51 receptions, 436 yards, and 1 touchdown. He started the year injured, and it took him a while to get going last year. Look, he's not as young as he once was, but I think he can still be productive if he's healthy. I personally would like to still see them take a back in the draft, a young, explosive back to bring up under Ekeler. Do you like the move?
I do. He is a better version of J.D. McKissick. He's, like you said, he's more of a pass game. He's got low mileage. He's 29, but he hasn't had a ton of carries his career, and he got a little bit of a late start. Because he was really, he was undrafted, didn't get a lot of playing time early in his career. Never really, I mean, two or three seasons, he was like a full-time back. But yeah, like you said, he hurts you in the passing game. He's really good at blitz pickup. He's a good all-around third down type of back. It's going to be a great compliment to Robinson and then whoever else they bring in, be it Rodriguez if he sticks around or whomever. I think Ekeler is a good signing. They got him cheaper than what they would have had to pay for Antonio Gibson. it's a short-term deal. If it doesn't work out, they can get out of it this year. It's a really good signing. I like the Ekeler signing quite a bit. What's up, Mike?
I made it.
He made it. Yeah. He was busy signing free agents himself, but he has joined us. Mike, what do you think about the Ekeler move, and what do you think it means for Brian Robinson, if anything?
I like the Ekeler move. Solid signing. I know he's probably on the downside of his career, and I'm okay with that. We've had plenty of running backs that came here late in their career and they flourished. The last one that happened, I'm not sure if you all mentioned it or not, but Adrian Peterson a couple of years ago. Actually, I like that Adrian Peterson, and I'm hoping like lightning can strike twice with Ekeler. But if not, I think Robinson is just fine. I think that young man is a very, very talented running back. He just needed more touches last season. I don't think this move affects him at all. I still expect him to be RB1, even if Ekeler does have some sort of rejuvenation. I still think the age might limit him to what he used to be. But Robinson's still young, third season. That's typically a good year for running backs. They 2 years off of college. Out of college. They see the lanes better. They understand the ball security more, pass protection more. I like Robinson out of the backfield probably more than most people. So again, I have no thoughts that Robinson will be negatively affected by this signing. If anything, it's probably a positive to bring in a vet to help him and Rodriguez out.
Yeah. I'm not the biggest Robinson fan in terms of how he runs. I think he leaves a lot on the field, but I agree with you. I think Ekeler can help with that. I think just having another more polished and accomplished running back in the room is nothing but positive. And I think you made a good call. Like, we haven't really had a guy like this since Adrian Peterson. McKissick was great, but McKissick didn't have the career cachet that an Adrian Peterson had that now Ekeler does as well. So that means something in the running back room. So I'm looking forward to that. Eric, your favorite position, kicker. Looks like Joey Sly's on the way out. We got Brandon McManus. McManus was a 73.3 PFF rated field goal kicker, 80.0 kickoff. He made 30 of 37 field goals, 50% on field goals above 50 yards. That means he missed 2 field goals under 50 yards last year. Your thoughts on McManus?
Not in love with the pick or the signing. I'm curious if they bring Sly back and let them compete, because McManus is only on a 1-year deal. It's not a super expensive deal, but Sly, I don't know what kind of action he's gotten in free agency. I would rather see a competition, because McManus, he was good in Denver when he was kicking in thin air. But he went to Jacksonville with that humidity last year, and he struggled. 80% is good enough. He's not good from distance. And one thing Sly can do is kick long field goals. I mean, he had a 62-yarder last year. And I'd rather have a guy who can hit a long field goal when you need it than somebody who, is, he's obviously McManus is probably better on extra points than Sly is. But I would prefer to see a competition. I hope they bring somebody else in, because I'm not a huge McManus guy, but it's a 1-year deal and it's a kicker. So who really cares, right?
Yeah, I agree. I like the move. I've had McManus in fantasy a number of years. I think he gets the job done. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Dustin Hopkins a little bit, but nothing spectacular. But we'll see what happens. As long as he maintains his kickoffs, I think we're good. Nick Allegretti, the guard that we got from the Chiefs, who played 80 offensive snaps last year, 68.7 PFF, 75.7 pass block, 64.9 run block. Let's see, no penalties and no sacks allowed in those 80 snaps. What do you think about this one, this guard?
I mean, it's 80 snaps. Like, it's not really, I mean, it could be 0, so I guess it's good to have 80 snaps. What's that about?
But those snaps came in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting to.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting to. I didn't know if that was 80 regular season snaps or if it was just the 80 snaps in the Super Bowl, but that's what I was getting to. Everybody's talking about him not being a starter, this, and that. He played in the Super Bowl and must have played well enough, because They won. Now, of course, the 49ers did get a lot of pressure. And we can talk all day about his accolades, PFF score, this, and that. It's a solid move. It's another solid move. And I feel like that's just going to be the theme of the free agency. Don't ask me about his mechanics and things like that. I just found out about the dude, last night or this morning, actually, when I woke up. The signing happened last night. So, yeah, it's a player that's not – I'm going to just say it. He's not infected with the Rivera regime, and it's just nice to get a new player in. Like, I'll ask this question: would you rather have him or Nick Gates? I know there's different positions, but I mean, I'm just saying, production is production, and I feel like he'll at least be better than Nick Gates and Wiley and the other guards we had last season.
Yeah, he's not. He's never played a full season or close to it starting. I haven't looked at his history to see if that's because of injuries or what in his career. I think the most he's played is like 600 snaps or something like that. He does not give up a lot of sacks when he does play, but his PFF ratings could be a lot better. This has to be a scheme fit move for me to feel comfortable with it. Like Cliff identified, this is the kind of guard I need in my system, and then I'll be okay with it. If that's what Cliff says, just from a raw numbers perspective, this is not a terribly exciting move, but you got to trust Peters and you got to trust Kingsbury to know that they what they want to plug into this offense on the offensive line, and I will go with that. Eric, Clelin Ferrell, he was a pick of the Raiders. I believe one of Mike Mayock's first draft class as GM of the Raiders, no less. Let's see, he had 17 tackles last year, solo, 9 assists. He had 4 sacks, a forced fumble, 60 overall PFF, 47.4 run defense, 60.4 pass rush. He played 176 run snaps, 294 pass snaps, and then I'm gonna give you one more year, not 2022 because he didn't play a bunch. Yeah. Yeah, we'll go with that. I mean, his statistics kind of are what they are. He was a high pick. I think the Raiders way overdrafted him. What do you think about the move here? Do you think he kind of gets penciled in as a starter, as an edge rusher?
Yeah, I'm fine with the move because we didn't use the number 4 overall pick on him. We used the number 2 on Chase Young. So whatever. I mean, we know what it's like to whiff on a pass rusher. Let's put it that way. Yeah, Farrell's a fine. I think he's a rotational player. I think between him, Armstrong, and the other guys that we brought in, that you'll see a lot of moving parts on that and that defensive end rotation. And then, it remains to be seen whether it's addressed in the draft or what else is brought, because there's guys out there. There's still top-notch pass rushers out there that haven't been signed yet, like Daniel Hunter. So, we'll see what we do. As of right now, I guess you could put him as a starter, but I don't know how much that means in April. It doesn't really move the needle for me. He's fine in a situational role. Like I said, we didn't use a high pick on him. That was the Raiders' problem. So I'm fine with the signing.
Yeah, situational pass rushers is what I'm getting to. Probably not in on rundowns that often, but when he's got to pin his ears back and go after the quarterback, he can step in and do that. Marcus Mariota was signed today. Last year, he was a 66.3 overall PFF, 55.6 passing, 80.7 rushing. Mariota in his career has never been that top-tier elite starter. He had some decent years in Tennessee, but he's never matched his production at Oregon as a starter in the NFL. Bounced around to a number of teams. If you watched that quarterback show on Netflix, you saw he just kind of quit on the Falcons a little bit towards the end of that season. But he's coming here to be what I believe is the number 2, considering they gave him $6 million. He's going to be here. There were reports that came out that Sam Howell is basically on the way out, whether that's by trade or what have you. And then I saw some folks saying just keep Sam Howell as a number 3 quarterback. But what do you think overall about this move? Do you think it's signaling anything in the draft in terms of who we might select? And then what do you think we should do with Sam Howell?
I don't think it's signaling any signs in the draft. I think the chances of us drafting Daniels are still the same as it was before the signing this morning. Nevertheless, I think him being here would help either one of those rookies, so that's good. As far as what it does for Howell, I'm a Howell fan. Always have been, probably always will be. I don't think his career is done. I think he showed just enough to pique some interest in maybe other teams or even Kingsbury himself. We still don't know what the plan is. We don't know if they're going to go quarterback or not at 2. Of course, we assume that's going to happen. We probably prefer that to happen and want that to happen, but we don't know. They could still get Howell. I mean, they could still want to start Howell. Having said that, regardless, I don't think with Mariota here that Howell is in any less of danger of leaving than he was before. Just like the pick, I don't think that Mariota signs moves the needle at all for any direction other than having a veteran quarterback on the team.
Yeah, I think so. JP Finley and I think a few others said, "Oh, it looks like Jaden Daniels to Washington." Vegas also bit the cheese. They're also now projecting Daniels to Washington. Mariota's backed up a number of different types of quarterback in his year, so I don't think that specifically means anything, but it got me a little excited. I'm not going to lie to you. In terms of how his contract is like 600,000, let the man be a backup third string guy. I think like what it says to me is that the regime came in, looked at the tape, and said, "Look, we need a new backup quarterback for whatever reason. I don't know what that reason is, but they felt like we need a new QB too." And to your point, Mike, I think we're going quarterback in the draft. I think that's pretty much locked and loaded. But you don't know until you know, though, and so they could surprise us from here for sure. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Eric,
Well, Brian
go
Johnson's
ahead.
here. That's why they brought in Mariota, I think, because he was with Johnson in Philly last year.
That's a good
So
point.
very low chance Sam Howell gets cut. I think you trade him or you hang on to him this year. He seems like a fit in Denver, so I'm going to call it right now. He gets traded to Denver at some point in this offseason.
Okay.
Sean Payton would like him better than he would like Justin Fields, which basically those are the only two quarterbacks left to be moved. So I don't know who's getting it. But.
Well, Tannehill's still out there too, surprisingly.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that.
This might sound crazy, but between Howell and Fields, I think I'd rather have Howell.
Yeah, I would.
Nah.
It'll cost so much.
Sean Payton,
it'll cost so much less to get a quarterback that's shown to have just as much passing prowess as Fields. Like I would really take Howell over Fields right now.
Sean Payton
I was trading for a quarterback.
Sean Payton would want none of Fields. That's a non-starter, I think, with him. So I think it depends on the fit. Like maybe the Raiders. But if I'm Justin Fields, I'm really pissed off at Kirk Cousins and Russell Wilson right now because those are the two jobs that probably those are the two teams that had the best chance at acquiring Fields.
Well,
so we'll see. But I'm with you, Mike. I think that as a tradable, I think Howell is more tradable because the passing numbers were pretty close, and the rushing numbers. Does a team want to run first quarterback or do they want a passer? So I know you.
Howell he has 2 more years on his contract too, compared to Fields. Like for me, it would be a no-brainer to go after Howell over Fields.
And Howell probably 4th or 5th round pick.
Right, and that way, if he sucks, if it doesn't work, I'm probably high in the draft, or I'm high enough to trade up if I'm one of the teams that gave up a 4th or 5th for him. Like I said, is it ideal considering we have the 2nd pick? No, but I mean that's what happens when you sign a backup quarterback in this town. Like the conversation is just going to take a mind of its own, and anything could happen. But
Yeah.
nah, I mean, like if we went into the season with Howell and Mariota, I think that would cause a lot of people to panic. And yeah, you're probably right, Ali. We're drafting the quarterback.
I definitely drafting a quarterback, but yeah, like Denver doesn't have any cap space either. So that's another feather in Howell's cap. And really, there's what other team is looking to trade for a quarterback at this point? If that's even an option, like who? Maybe the Raiders. Like
Raiders
maybe
got to get somebody.
Yeah, the Raiders got to get somebody in there. But I really think I think they're gonna really push hard to move up in the draft and get Jaden Daniels. Personally, that's their target. I feel it in my bones because that's Antonio Pierce recruited him to Arizona State.
I agree with you on the target. Yeah. It ain't happening because he's coming to DC, but we'll
he's
see.
Going to New England at 3.
One of the things that came out this week too was that one of the reasons the Bears have not traded him being Fields yet is because they're still not completely sure about Caleb Williams being their guy. And I'm like, you guys have been on the clock since like week 16 of last season. How are you guys still not certain in your organization about Caleb Williams? I mean, holy cow. So, because Albert Breer was talking about that today on the NFL Network, I'm like, man, this is weird. Like, they're going to screw this up again. And they're going to do something dumb. But if they do, it only benefits us, right? So,
Bears going to bear.
Bears going to bear, man. All right. Dante Fowler Jr. Let's see. 7 tackles last year, solo, 8 assists. This is the craziest stat line. 5 sacks last year.
That's crazy. How many came versus Washington?
I know. He had 200 and like basically 90 snaps last year. Did I say that right? No. 270 snaps last year. He had 8 tackles in those snaps, and 5 of them were sacks. Like, he is like, what was he doing for those other 260 snaps? I have no idea. But he's another edge rusher. He was a early draft pick by the Jaguars, I believe, and has bounced around a little bit. Not had the career that some people thought he might. But what do you think about the move, Mike?
Isn't he the one when he was drafted? He had like some weird gold shoes or something like that. It's like the only thing I remember from his Jaguar days.
Yeah.
Outside of that, the only thing I know about him is that he's been with Dan Quinn in Atlanta and Dallas. And admittedly, I heard a lot of people say that he could be one of the players to come to DC from Dallas. And I didn't have any problems with it, especially with the money they gave him. What was it? 1 year, $5 million or something low like that. I mean, I'll take it for a rotational defensive end with maybe some juice. I mean, he had 5 sacks. That would have been what, 3rd on Washington last season in the limited snap. So, I have no problem with the signing. And I'm trying to verify something. Yeah, 2 of those 5 sacks came against Washington in 2 games. So maybe the answer to your question is, and what was he doing in the other games? Not playing Washington. But no, seriously, solid signing. I have nothing negative to say because it's a depth rotational piece for a vet player in a position of need that still clears the way for us to draft a defensive and or edge player in the draft. Hello, Chop Robinson.
Yeah, Dan Quinn recruited him to Florida too. Like, he's been Dan Quinn since pretty much day one. Other than the draft,
dang.
Yeah, he's the Dan Quinn guy. So he's following. He's going wherever Quinn goes.
Yeah, they go back, man. So I can see why everybody was confident that he was coming. He probably had a bottle of mumbo sauce ready to go as soon as he signed with the Commanders. I'm near.
You know that stuff. I don't want to offend you. I know you're a DC guy, but man, mumbo sauce is Chick-fil-A Polynesian sauce. It is.
No, I tell people that all the time when they ask, what is mumbo sauce? I'm you ever had Chick-fil-A Polynesian sauce?
That's what it is. Yeah.
Add some hot sauce to that.
Yeah. The spicy kind of mumbo sauce is good. The non-spicy kind, the mild kind, I don't care for too much. But it's not. It's like that Raising Cane sauce. That sauce is trash, but people go crazy for it. It's just pepper and mayonnaise, and that is not
on
great. But anyway,
bland chicken tenders.
on bland chicken tenders with some ketchup mixed in. That's right.
Terrible.
Anyway, all
We
right.
are
So
not sponsored by
Fowler's
Raising Cane's, and nor will we be after this episode.
never. His best season, he had 11 and a half sacks. That was in 2019, playing next to Aaron Donald. His second best season was 8 sacks in 2017, his second year with Jacksonville. And he had a 6-sack season. 6-sack season. Say that 3 times fast. With Dallas in 2022. So a good player. I don't know what I expect from him, but I do like the move. To finish up the free agency signings, we have Tyler Ott, a long snapper. Eric, what does this mean for our guy Cameron Cheeseman?
He got cut last year, so not much. He got cut mid-season.
You're right. We're not signing him back. That's what
Yeah,
that means.
I mean, it means a lot for our kicker and our punter, because I mean Cameron Cheeseman got Tressway killed one play last year. Cameron Cheeseman is a failed. It just didn't work out. Sorry, Cam, but it just didn't. So Ott is, he's another guy. I think Izzo had him in Seattle, I want to say. So if there's another guy that the coaching staff is familiar with, they brought him in. You're a long snapper. Your job is to snap the ball long. The last guy we had couldn't do it. Hopefully Ott can. I'm sure he can. He's been in the league for 10 years now. So long snapping is a very necessary skill. You don't know that. You don't really pay attention to it unless you have a bad one. So as long as he's not a bad one, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, philosophically speaking, Mike, what have you learned about Peter's approach to free agency philosophically?
I learned that he's a man of his word. He said that I wish I could quote him word for word, but he basically was saying in his press conferences and at the combine, his initial press conference, that he's basically going to bring in veterans through the free agency to kind of like patch up some holes, but he wants to build through the draft. And we tried to warn y'all that earlier this month or last month with our free agency preview. If you were expecting home run swings, it was never happening under Peters, because he wants to build through the draft. So in the last week of April, that's when you can expect the last week of April, that's when you can expect more home run swings. But expecting us to bring in Daniel Hunter, Xavier Howard, Patrick Queen, Chris Jones before he was signed back with KC, like it was never happening. It was never happening. So he's a man of his word. They may sign some depth corners since they got Jeremy Chin. I don't know if you all talked about that yet already, but they may bring in some depth corners since they brought him in. But as far as the splashes, it's nothing. It's a pond. It's nothing.
Yeah, we did neglect to talk about Jeremy Chin. I'm glad you brought him up. He wasn't on the list I wrote down earlier today. Chen, good safety, was with New England. I think New England drafted him. Did they not?
No, Carolina.
He was
with Carolina. He finished second to Chase
Who am I
Young.
thinking about New England?
You're thinking of Kyle Duggar. He's also free.
No.
Yeah,
But
Kyle
anyway,
Duggar.
no.
Duggar's a
about to
beast.
say,
Kyle Duggar is better than Jeremy Chin, but I mean, say what you will.
no, I didn't say that. I just was surprised by the name.
Yeah. PFF says Chin is a 57.7 overall safety, 68.1 run defense, 58.4 pass rush, 51.6 in coverage. Eric, does this mean the end for Cam Curl?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they haven't re-signed Curl. I mean, Curl hasn't signed anywhere, but you just brought in a third safety that you've already got 2 guys under contract that are younger and cheaper, and you just brought in a guy on a short-term deal. So I think Cam Curl is probably going elsewhere, and I think the talks have been exhausted. I don't think he's back unless he just can't get hired anywhere else.
I was thinking of Patrick Chung with the Patriots. That's who I was confusing
Oh,
it with.
okay.
CH last name. I like the move. Physical in the run game, and I think that's where he'll play. Derek Forrest and Quan Martin will probably split time at the free safety. Percy Butler too. There'll be a rotation. We'll see how it goes, but he's no Cam Curl, but I'm willing to give it a chance. So Eric, the free agent signings. How do you think this alters our draft strategy overall? Is there anything sticking out to you in terms of positions we may or may not target in the draft now?
No, I think it's made it the draft more wide open because you've really addressed the big needs, right, that we had going into the offseason: offensive line, pass rusher, quarterback. But you haven't addressed them with guys who can't be replaced. Like you can draft somebody, and if you need, I think that left tackle may still be a target because obviously that hasn't been addressed yet. But that's the only real need that hasn't been hit to this point in free agency as far as the major needs. So I think that really just frees you up to take like the best guy available. The old philosophy, you just go out and you see who's on your board, who do you have rated the highest. You don't have any immediate needs outside of left tackle right now, so why not? And that's as of the day before free agency officially starting. They could still address the tackle, any minute now, right? So yeah, I think it really helps you out with the draft strategy. And I would agree with Mike's point earlier, but it really, emphasizes that they're focusing on building through the draft. That's the mantra moving forward. And I think I'll look at the contracts. They're all 1, 2, 3-year deals. So if you're drafting guys to take these guys' place, you've got these guys on short-term contracts, and the guys hopefully can, if they're not starters right away, can work into those roles. So, yeah, I think the draft is wide open now outside of number 2, which is obviously going to be a quarterback. But, I think they can really do whatever they want in the draft. And I think that was the goal in free agency. And I think they've hit that so far.
Yep. I think the way I see it, it's quarterback at 2 overall. Our first second-round pick is probably left tackle. And our second-round pick is probably a cornerback because those are the positions we haven't addressed. And I think I could see them going in that order in a draft. All right. Final thoughts, Mike, on the free agency period thus far.
I'm excited. It's been a cool 48 hours watching everybody sign. Not just Washington, it's been a couple of key moves all over the league. I know we're at the Commanders, the classified, but you got to keep your eyes out in the rest of the league to understand some of the players that you brought in. So, but nevertheless, it's been cool. I really, really like all of the signings so far. And I just feel like this before I end it. When you're looking at free agency, try not to think about what you would do and try to think more about why they signed the player that they signed. I feel like this year you'll have less questions about why they signed the player they signed compared to last year and the year before that and the year before that.
I like that. Eric, final thoughts on the free agency so far?
Yeah, it's kind of what we're going to ignore last week when we started talking about Tyron Smith and Stephon Gilmore. We're just going to ignore that part. So, but it's other than that, it's pretty much gone as this group suspected it would go. Low key, I think it's been busier maybe than I thought it would be in the early going. That's the only surprise, but it's exciting to see quality players come in, and it seems like the coaches, the front office and coaches have a plan, and they are in sync with what they want to do, bringing in guys that are familiar to the coaching staff and the front office. I think that's great. I'm looking forward to the season. And I do, the draft is going to be phenomenal. And like I said, free agency hasn't even officially started. So there will definitely be more moves made, and I'm looking forward to those as well. And yeah, we're not winning the offseason. We're not the offseason champs this year. That's the Eagles. So good for them. That always works out so well.
And they just got Saquon Barkley, right?
Yep.
Man, they just go hard every offseason. My final thoughts on the offseason or the free agency so far are that Running backs are getting paid again. I love to see that because the NFL was built on the backs of running backs. Let's go and return to the running game. And we got one of them. It's Ekeler. I've been begging for explosiveness out of the backfield. They gave it to me. I'm a happy customer. One other question for you guys on the way out. And I want each of you guys to answer this. I'll start with you, Mike. How many wins have we added in free agency so far if we were a 4-win team last year?
So that's a trick question, I feel like, because if we're going strictly based on players, maybe 1 or 2. But I feel like the coaching staff may have brought another 2 wins. So I feel like right now, like if the team had to play a game today, you're looking at like a 6 to 8 win team. Nothing to write home about, but solid, I feel like. Coaching and players combined additions.
I like it. So 6 to 8 wins. Eric, what about you? Same question. How many wins have we added?
Based on free agency so far, that is extraordinarily optimistic, considering we have no left tackle and Marcus Mariota. But it's too early to tell for me. But until quarterback and the offensive line, everything is settled, I'm gonna roll with 4 wins. We're gonna go. I think this team can be better than that. The coaching staff, like Mike said, will help tremendously, but there's still holes to fill. So I'm not ready to make predictions just yet. We're not saying 11-win floor this year.
So, like, when you think about if you just replaced the guys that we brought in at their position and kept everybody else, like, what would this team have won with Jeremy Chin? I think I should have done it like this. Is Chin an upgrade or a downgrade over Curl? I think he's a little bit of a downgrade. Is Ekeler an upgrade or a downgrade over Antonio Gibson? I think Eckler's an upgrade in the passing game, specifically. And is Mariota an upgrade or a downgrade over Howell? I think it's a wash. Howell's inexperience and just Mariota's ineffectiveness. I think it's just a wash. I don't think we win. Actually, there's a part of me that wants to say we probably lose more games with Mariota starting than we do with
Mariota and that enemy offense would have been awful. I'm telling you, it would have been awful.
Yeah. So it's a hard. I know I asked it. It's a really hard question. I would say we're +2 wins with what we've added in free agency, simply because we're better at the linebacker position. And I can't understate how bad we were there and how big of a deficiency that was for our team. And the running back position. I mean, my God, maybe Ekeler would have convinced Bieniemy to throw more screens or something. I don't know, but we've improved there. I think that's worth 2 wins, but a lot of work to go. The draft is where it's going to get most important, like you said, Mike. All right, Commanders Declassified free agency so far. It's been great. The free agency period is awesome. We always enjoy this. We have fun. Make sure you're locked in. Subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Share this on your social media accounts. And we'll see you next time. Commanders Declassified. We are out of here.